people, and welcome to another fabulous evening in London where you're in conversation with Gustav. It's a series of chats I have with people that I find interesting in my life and also people that I think you will find very interesting. And today, none other than Fran, who's been a long-time client of mine, but also, she has started a phenomenal charity called Bounceback, and the charity has been going for 11 years?
Yes.
11 years. And they teach prisoners how to become painters and scaffolders. And but no further ado, Fran, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Gustav. Very nice to be here. I get a hairdo.
Yes,
Good.
yes. So, obviously, I've been to the prison with you to meet all the people that I don't say works for you, but in the program.
Yeah.
And so, tell us a little bit about how you started.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was interesting when you came in. I think I might start with that because what was interesting is that you came in because there is a hairdressing salon in Brixton prison, and the exciting thing about your visit was that we were trying to get the hair salon set up so that you could help advise on how they should be training the guys. And this is a men's prison, obviously HMP Brixton. So when we went in and you saw what we do, what we do is all the training we're doing is to get people into work. And the most important thing about people coming out of prison is that they have to have a job. One of the things they have to have is a job so that they can continue their lives or restart their lives with an income and with a proper opportunity to improve their lot, if you like.
Yeah.
So when you came in, we went round the painting and decorating training, we went round the scaffolding training, and we also do a thing called dry lining, which is about building walls. And that's not a very good description, but I'll have to do for that. And it's very much used by house builders. And so the advantage is that this means they have proper skills, they get qualifications, they come out, and then we help them work with big contractors and big organisations. Now, of course, it's a perfect time now, because there's such a skills shortage.
Of course.
So you can imagine that now this is exactly what's needed.
Actually, I didn't think about that because obviously,
Yes,
builders and stuff is in such a shortage. Everybody that wants to build
Yeah.
something, it's a nightmare to find anybody. So, actually, that's a
No,
good point.
it's absolutely amazing. And also the Ministry of Justice and the whole government is really focused on people, employing people who've left prison and giving them an opportunity. So it's great timing from that point of view. So we're having a sort of we're in a very good patch, if you like, because for us it's opening the doors of the prison to employers because they're so desperate to find people because they can't find them anywhere else. So it's been a really good opportunity for us.
And with the obviously teaching them painters and decorators, when I remember when I went to the prison with you, you gave me some statistics. I can't remember that there was X amount of people that if they went to prison and they came out with nothing, X amount went back, and I remember to prison eventually.
Yeah.
And I remember the amount of people that actually went back with further education was
Sure.
actually dramatically less.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the figures vary enormously. The first thing is that a lot of people go back into prison. So they go in for a short period of time, they come out and they go back in. So they commit crime again. So that reoffending, that costs all of us £18 billion a year. And so that is something really definitely worth preventing. So all our job is about stopping people going back to prison. That's really important. And then in terms of kind of numbers, what we say is that if the average sort of reoffending rate is about 30-40%, 50, when we work with them, it goes right down to 10 or less. So
Right.
it is a big difference. So that means they're much less likely to go back to prison, which means it doesn't. And each person costs about 70,000 a year to put into prison. So actually, you could send someone to Eton for the same price, for less actually. But it's 70 once you add other bits and pieces. So there.
70,000 a year. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
it?
a hell of a lot. You could go and stay somewhere quite nice with that.
Yeah, and obviously we don't. I definitely didn't think about. Obviously, it needs to be paid by someone, and who pays for it is the taxpayer.
Us, yeah.
And right.
So it makes a big difference. So it is a really worthwhile thing to do, and it is. And also it's giving some people who've never had education or skills training or anything before, it's giving them that opportunity to have some kind of career. And although we start with construction, and a lot of people say, isn't that very stereotypical, you're going to put people into construction, but you've got two different challenges. One is that some people have never worked in their lives, and for them that's a really good opportunity, because also it's a fantastic progression. They can actually have a fantastic career if they want to be an architect, they want to be an engineer, they want to be whatever they want to be.
Yeah.
They can work their way out because the opportunities are enormous. So it's really good to be in that arena now, and it's been quite an exciting journey for 11 years.
Right.
Mm.
And how did you start Bounceback?
Yeah. Well, I really regret this, because actually I almost wish I had a relative or a friend who was in prison and I'd gone to see them and I thought the world had changed. But actually, I was invited into prison because I was an employer, because I had a branding and design business. And I went into prison to meet a governor who said, come and see if there's anybody that you can work with or employ, or just come and visit. And I went in and I just thought, there but for the grace of God go so many people. So many of us could land up in prison so easily. It doesn't mean you have to stab anybody, and it doesn't mean you have to be involved with drug dealing. And it felt like the kind of abandon hope, all ye who enter in, and it was.
Right.
I was in Wandsworth, which is one of the biggest prisons in Europe, and it was such an interesting experience. And also, not only that, it was actually an extremely amusing experience, because the guys have got fantastic, transferable skills, and they're actually, a lot of them, very funny. And so I went in there the first time just to meet the governors and meet a few people, and then I needed some staff, so I thought, well, why don't we try and see how this goes. And so I went in there to recruit a designer, actually. I thought, well, let's see if anybody in here can do design, graphic design. And we found someone that could, and I met them. And when he came out, he came to see me, and we started kind of tiny and worked on that basis. And then it kind of grew. And then we realised we needed our offices painted. So I went back into the prison and I said, well, I've got a graphic designer who we're training. Can we have some painters and decorators? And so then we landed up with some guys, and we went and interviewed them. And I have to say, a lot of them did say things like, how much are you paying? And I said, well, a really good going rate. I had only just started this, I didn't know what I was doing. So, and they said, I said, it's sort of £70 a day or something in those days. And they went, and they all burst, a lot of them burst out laughing and went, you must be joking. I get that in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I do my normal job. So a lot of them didn't quite go for it, but a lot of them did, because they didn't want to have 3 phones and not know if it was their dealer, the police, or whoever it was on the phone. So it was an interesting process. And then it went on from there, and then we started training, and somebody gave us a building, which was part of the Duchy estate, which was lovely, and we got this very cold, very unheated, cold water building, but it was fantastic, and it sort of went on from there.
And how many people do you think in the 11 years you've been there has been through your books?
Well, we think it's about 3,000 now, so that's quite good. We're quite pleased with that.
And of the 3,000, have all stayed rehabilitated, or has some of them kind of...
This is one of those questions you really don't want. No, we have a very good... We do evaluation. I have to stress this. We do evaluation all the time. I was very impressed by your lady who was talking about modern slavery the other day, because she was very accurate about the figures. I'm going to be very inaccurate about the figures. I know that we have a very good percentage of people that are still out. We can't keep in touch with people after 11 years, although I have walked down the streets in Brixton sometimes.
And you've seen them?
And suddenly a voice shouts out, hello, Fran. Right. And I find out that some of them have actually, and they tell me about their careers and what they're doing now and stuff. So that's really nice. So I do know quite a few of them.
That is definitely a proud moment, because,
it's a great moment,
because even though, it is, 3,000 people in one aspect changing their lives is huge, but it's quite small and intimate, so it is like a family.
Yeah, no, it is. And actually 3,000 is that many in 11 years. That's obviously because we started quite small, but that's not that massive. But it wasn't about doing massive numbers. It was about making sure... The wonderful thing about small charities is that you can make a massive difference to small numbers of people. And sometimes when you get too big, you can't do as much. So what's great is when you're small, you can be... It is exactly like a family. We're offering... A lot of people say that about people in prison, that all they really need... The things they need the most, it's not that complicated. They need somewhere to live, something to do, and someone to care. And I think the important thing is, if you can give them as much of that as possible, and you care about people, then they sense that, and they feel part of a family, and often they haven't got families or they haven't got support. So yeah, it's a big thing.
Well, because I remember, admittedly, when you invited me to go to Brixton prison with you, I was excited and slightly shitting myself at the same time.
Absolutely.
And I remember Steve and I, we probably must have just started dating, so this must be 7 years ago. And I remember I stayed over at his house, or our house now, and I said to him, "This is where we're going." I said, "Well, I'm going to Brixton prison," and he was like, "What?" And I remember coming in, and it is quite. Even though you know what the people are in for, and I'm quite modern, so a lot of the things that the people are in there for doesn't really faze me. I do say that, but it was for me. It was quite a liberating experience because in my mind I had this vision of prison, what it is, and of course you get in there, and it is a little bit jarring when all the gates open and close and and that's the scenario. But once you're in there, we were in the training facilities, and we actually started speaking to these men and realised, it's nothing else than just another human being. And maybe someone's drunk and driving, or someone got caught selling weed or whatever. I know maybe to me it's really not as big a thing, but it's just another human being in a shitty situation.
Absolutely, and they made a bad decision.
Yeah.
Didn't they? And I think the interesting thing, it's really good that you say this, because this is exactly why we take people into prison, because people have to see that these are normal people. They haven't got 6 heads. They don't attack you at the drop of a hat. And also we went to the Clink, didn't you? Which is very civilised.
Yeah.
So the Clink restaurant, which is fantastic, which is another charity, and
they still going?
Yeah. They do really well. Right. So it's fantastic because they absolutely present a restaurant in a prison, which is completely like just being in any restaurant, and it feels totally like you're not in prison. And that's so important because that's what this has to feel like. It's about training people and about giving them an opportunity to some of the staff in there are great, aren't they?
Yeah,
fantastic.
and it is you once you get over the fact that you're in prison, it does disappear, and you just kind of think, well, it's just another place. And do I dare say now? You and I spoke about it. Some of them are really hot. So when you go in there, you think, delicious, and it for me it was quite a mind boggle because it wasn't something that I was expecting. But obviously it was something that was really refreshing, and it was so great, to have that connection about, it isn't 3 heads and they're not going to attack you at the drop of a hat.
That's really good. And it is absolutely, that's 2/3 of what we do is changing people's perception.
Right.
So we did things like we had a garden at Hampton Court Palace Flower Show so that we could have the guys there. They'd never gardened in their lives before, but they did a very, very good job. And luckily somebody else did the gardening. But they were photographed by the press, obviously, on the garden, holding a trowel. And but that's really important because people just came up all day and just talked to them. And they just wanted to ask them questions, and they gave the guys a chance to talk about what they've done, and they're often very happy to talk about it.
So with people, so when you kind of go out, you come out of prison, you give them a job, or how? So you train them in prison, and what happens
when they get a job? We try and give them a job in our own painting and decorating business, or we're about to start a cleaning business. Should anyone need their house cleaned, please bear that in mind, or even their house painted. But we basically work with them to make sure they're ready and support them, and then put them either in our own business, which means that we can support them more if they're not quite ready, or they go and meet lots of different construction partners. So we have partnerships with lots of corporates. And actually I realised that because I came out of a kind of corporate environment, that actually that's been the most important thing about anything I've done really, is that thing of tapping into and working with organisations, just normal businesses, whether they're large or small. But it's really important to make that work in a charity environment, and sometimes that's quite hard to do. So we've spent a lot of time with large construction companies working out how they can take people from prison and how we support them, and they're taking a lot now. I mean, this is now very much
it's a common thing.
It's a common thing, yeah. So it's really good, and that's why we're delighted with all the chaos that's going on at the moment, because obviously there's lots of jobs. In fact, I was listening to the whole thing about the airlines this morning, and of course I was wondering if they'd be interested in taking, because we've got lots of people that would love to be probably working on an airline. Absolutely. I should think.
I think it's a fabulous job.
Yeah, no, well, I'm not sure if it is now.
Well,
I'm not sure.
not
Some of
40,000,
Yeah.
not flying,
No.
but it's
Yeah.
And then when they come to work for you, do they have a certain amount of time there with you, and then, or do they stay with
No.
you for?
It's however long it takes. So they come and work with us, and we continue training them, or they're ready for a job. I've got a guy at the moment who's a fantastic IT expert, so we're working with him to get a job to do. But he's very fussy about what job he takes, and he won't take anything unless it's suitable.
Right.
So it's taken about 9 months, and he was turned down loads of jobs, but when he gets the right one, because he was very senior in IT. And then we have, he's working for us at the moment because he's doing our IT, which is very useful. And then we've got somebody else who's working for us ourselves within Bounceback. And so she's working as an administrator, and she's doing well, and she's training while she's doing that, and then she's going to go and do a degree. So you see, everybody is very different, and It's very much how hard they find it. And then with others, we have to make sure they get to work, and we almost take them to work, and we handhold them, and then they do or don't turn up.
And is that because it's a confidence thing, or is it because they've just not been exposed
Both, probably.
to?
Yeah, I think it's confidence and inexperience, and so a lot of them have never worked,
Right.
so that's very difficult. But plus, it has been, it's been difficult for everyone over COVID. What's been really difficult for the guys is that and the women, they've been locked up for 23 hours a day for 2 years nearly now, and they're only just unlocking a bit.
Right.
So it means that, they couldn't train, they couldn't have visitors.
So was that because of COVID they were locked
because
up
of
for
COVID.
24
And it was
hours?
for their safety, it was safety, so they didn't spread like wildfire through the prison.
Because speaking of COVID in prisons, would it be the prison guards that will bring the COVID in? Because surely if you're in prison, then it will be the people that leave the prison that brings COVID in, because otherwise it will be quite a safe.
But we all know how weird it was. You almost didn't know where you got it from, did you? And so they were very cautious, and certainly none of us could go in.
Right.
So you couldn't do any training, we couldn't do any visiting, nothing. So it was, it's been a very tough 2 years, and just like all of us, people are coming out behaving quite weirdly. We're all emerging, aren't we, from something quite complicated.
Yeah.
And mental health issues are enormous. We're working with that with the guys in the prison to see if they're suitable for work and where they've got to in their journey and all of this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think also on the other side, there are the kind of great stories and sort of there's an enormous amount of humour about working in the criminal justice sector.
Right.
Once one gets over the sort of one side of it, but the people, often the people that work in it are, I think we all have a sense of humour because so much of it is so kind of bizarre, and you do meet quite fascinating people, and I find myself, it's totally inappropriate to ask people what they've done or anything else, and sometimes it's very tempting, and I did meet an amazing
God,
woman
that would be the first question I'll ask. Because I'm like the most inappropriate person. So tell me, how did you arrive here?
Yes, no, well, quite. But there was one delightful woman who was a barrister, and she was incredibly tiny woman. And so we got into a conversation, exactly as you might do at a kind of, dinner party. We were sitting in a room, we were with a group of employers. She was a very talented, very bright woman. And I did say, what are you doing here? And you just go, what is it? And however inappropriate she, it was. I kind of fell out with my boyfriend, and I said, oh, how did that go? And anyway, and it is very, very hard not to say, how could anyone as weenie as you possibly have done any damage to anybody? And yes. I wanted to say, did you hit him over the head with a saucepan? Because you must have done something that caused enormous amounts of damage. But you can't, obviously I didn't. But you meet some fascinating people, and some people who are really there's some amazing determination to change people, to change their lives. And we don't, that's not us, that's them. There's nothing to do with us.
Of course.
It's like being an alcoholic and deciding to stop drinking.
Of course. And so obviously, Bounceback, you've been doing that for 11 years. We mentioned earlier that you are starting a cleaning business. And would the cleaning business be part of the non-profit, or would it be separate?
No, that would be a separate non-profit, which I'm joining now. Because I'm also involved with a charity that does nutrition, and I'm doing a lot of other things now because I'm kind of moving sideways from Bounceback. I've done my bit, and now
Right.
I'm moving on, and we have new people in place. And so I work in a number of different areas. One of which is with nutrition, with another charity called Think Through Nutrition, where it's all about food. Think through nutrition.
Okay.
And that's about food for brain health and what we should and should eat. And the best thing about the board meetings is that one of the trustees produces the most amazing brownies, which I can't quite put together with Think Through Nutrition for brain health. But anyway, they're delicious. And so I do that, but also the cleaning company is going to be a separate project, which is working with the livery companies in the City of London.
Right.
So that
And then what? Cleaning offices or cleaning anything?
Well, we're going to start off cleaning building sites because it's kind of easier to start that way.
Right.
But it's going to be very interesting, and I'm still going to be available.
Cleaning building sites from, like, if you say building sites.
Well, you can imagine a building site looks like a mess, but they have to clear it up every day. So, and it's a very good place to start because there's no problem with criminal records, there's no problem with any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's quite good from that point of view.
Oh, fantastic.
And,
that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
That sounds really good.
Well, I'm not sure it sounds very interesting, actually.
No, well,
But I wasn't expecting to be on a Zimmer frame with a mop late in my career. But nonetheless, it would appear that's what I'm going to be. A mop on a building.
Well,
site.
I don't see, maybe in a Zimmer frame, but definitely not with a mop. More like
Thank you
just
very much. Thank you. I'm so looking forward to it. I shouldn't have brought it up, should I? Not really yet.
more like like a wand or a fabulous staff,
Yes,
something.
No, one would be right.
I can definitely, or maybe like a feathered boa. So I'm sure something in your wardrobe is much more fascinating than a mop.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, it's robots now, anyway. So
Oh my god! So it's these little cleaning
I know,
things.
great.
Yeah.
I'm really
Yes.
looking forward to that.
I've actually got one of my clients. She's got a lawnmower. So you put like a little string along your garden, and you put the lawnmower in, and off it goes, and it cuts
That's very good.
every day, all day long. It just mows the lawn, keeps it
On its
perfectly
own.
on its own. And I thought,
Perfect.
my God, they me. Well, actually, I don't do it. So it's not me. They're pushing the lawnmower.
Yeah, no, I don't do that.
It's
No.
not my thing. But anyway, I think so. For people at home, if they want to, let's say, support
Yeah.
Bounceback or Food Through Thought,
Food. I can't think through nutrition.
think through nutrition.
Yeah.
So think through nutrition and Bounceback. I was going to say food for thought. I don't know what.
Food thought, not bad
Yeah.
idea.
If they want to support any of these charities, do they make a donation? Is it how does it?
No, I mean, obviously we would love a donation, that's very nice, but we would also, and I think actually, funny enough, a lot of people say exactly the same thing. Anyone with a charity says the best thing is people have now heard about us, so that's great. You know what we do. We often do take people into prison. If people are interested in volunteering, and obviously not just to come and, come from, let's have a look at a prison, but, I think it's about, we would like people to come, and yes, we'd absolutely like people to donate to either of those charities. I mean, particularly at the moment, Think Through Nutrition, because that's a kind of smaller charity. So I've gone from a bit of a bigger charity, not that big, but to a smaller charity to support them, and it's such an interesting time to be doing something with food now, and we're doing it in prisons as well. So there's a kind of relevant thing. So
Amazing.
anyone that wants to get involved, and either of them, please let me know.
And I can definitely
Or
recommend.
Gustav know.
Yeah.
Gustav know.
I can definitely, because also I'm sure they can find you on all the social
Oh,
media
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And we'll put all of those things onto the link.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you, Gustav.
I think for me it's been great listening to all the time. It's evolved. Obviously, I met you just after you started it.
Moaning, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't call it moaning. I think like positively complaining.
Yes, that's another subject. Whether people should stop charities. Yes, that's a bigger one. Yeah.
But I think it's for the guys for these charities. I think both of them are quite special to me just because of the relationships I have with you, and I've had with you for many years.
Yeah.
I think I've probably known you for about 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So, and it's and if you can support it through anything, through financial support, or going in and just breaking down the barriers, like I did going into prison, to just see the different mindset that will definitely change your life as it did me.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad I changed your life.
yeah, well, definitely. I look at it very differently now. If I was single, I would have looked at it maybe slightly more differently in many ways. But Fran, I want to say a big thank you for coming to join us in the pink chair.
Very nice.
And yeah, I think it's nice and cozy, isn't it?
Okay.
And for the guys at home, thank you for watching. If you've got any questions, you can direct message us, and we will put all the stuff all the information on the website for you to see. And let's start supporting Bounceback and, getting people back into society and giving them the support and the help that we all desperately need in this time. Thank you so much.